Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new show called the Pact of Mics and Fire, where we're going to be covering House of the Dragon. We're a little late. We're a season and an episode late. But, when they start the second season on Father's Day, a little tough sometimes. And this is a show all about family. And, I would expect they'd want us to be, spending time with the family. Did it just start recording? Okay, I guess I'll just start that over then. Everybody, welcome to a new show called Pact of Mics and Fire, where we're going to be covering House of the Dragon. We're a little late, season and an episode late, but when they start the second season on Father's Day, what can you do? It's a show all about family and the goods, mostly the bads of that. But I think it should be a fun time. Ryan, how are you? Are you excited to be talking about House of the Dragon?
Brian, I'm doing very well. Very glad the show's back on. Just watched the second episode today. Recording on a Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So again, delayed. So staying consistent with the theme here.
Mm-hmm.
I actually watched the first episode with my father on Father's Day. What better way to spend time with your father than watch families betraying each other?
Right. No, I agree. Yeah. What better way than blood and cheese to celebrate Father's Day? But yeah, we're gonna be talking a little bit. We're gonna be talking mostly about the second episode. We'll talk a little bit about the first episode, mostly that big moment, of course, at the end there. Ryan, as a book reader, how did you feel they did adapting it? Because I know it's been a little controversial, but I personally thought they did a good job, and I would love to hear your thoughts there.
With blood and cheese?
Yeah, the adaptation. I know it's a lot more brutal in the books, but maybe a little too brutal for television.
I think the way they did it was pretty good. It brought a little more context. Like a big thing for me, everyone notices different things. Big thing for me was that it wasn't Daemon who actually in the books, it wasn't Daemon, it was, I believe, Misery herself who went to the big guy who hates the high towers, who is blood, and the rat catcher who is cheese. So that's one thing that's different, them seeing Viserys. But I think for what the show is doing, I think it was pretty perfect. I think it showed kind of, for lack of a better terms, I feel like it kind of showed how on the fly it was kind of as where it's, it's kind of like this supposed to be like this big event that happened, right? But like, they're giving the names blood and cheese, but it was a pretty unprofessional job.
Yeah, that was real slapstick, and the slapstick nature of schemes will continue into this episode, or as Otto calls them, pranks. But yeah, this is they confirmed it in this episode, but they definitely played it up in the last one where they were like, Daemon wants to kill Aemon, but he's gonna be like, yeah, fucking kill, like, if you can't find Aemon, find the other son.
He doesn't
he doesn't say it, but there's a moment where it's like, what if we can't find him? And then Daemon does like a little look, and then it cuts. And then like Rhaenyra 100% called him out on it in this episode,
and that's like, why they definitely did it.
Said that, yeah.
And I think that's looking now to this episode, to the second episode, which we'll talk about soon. That's definitely why they did it. I guess, like, yeah, it wasn't as, now I think on it, wasn't as outwardly slapstick in the book, but the way I see it, like the fact that blood was carrying the head in a sack and gets caught, it is clearly not like a super professional job, and I think that, we see a lot of this where they're kind of they're just kind of filling in some blanks here, but I thought it was pretty well done. I did think it was interesting because in the book they capture, again, they're doing all this to kind of push their own narrative, which, this is just how TV shows are now, right? They tend to just like go away from the original content in a lot of ways. It just is what it is. So in the book, he doesn't find Helena. I believe he finds Queen Alicent first. Alicent brings him to Helena and the kids. Obviously they don't do that because they want Helena to find Alicent boning Sir Criston Cole. That doesn't happen in the books at all. I definitely think this version, it's definitely more of like a mushroom. This is like mushrooms. Mushroom tale, a mushroom tale for sure, more so than anything else, than a Maester's tale. We don't know that for sure in the books if Alicent and Sir Criston Cole are fucking. I wouldn't be incredibly surprising. But yeah, so that I think we can see why they made those changes. And I think they did a really good job of kind of building the tension and just showing the fatal mistake where, like you said, Daemon gave that look. But when I was watching it, that I got more of the feeling like these guys kind of took it on their own. They're like, all right, this is Daemon. He's obviously going to make us kill someone. Like, he's crazy. We're terrified. We're already here. We might as well get fucking paid. And so they're like, and then they make a really poor decision of killing a baby, which is just like, not a baby, but it's like 3 kids.
3-year-old maybe.
Yeah, and they're all in their sleep. And I think he's the oldest one. So like it's pretty messed up. But yeah, so I think overall I was fine with the interpretation. I think they did about as well as you could ask for while straying from the content and sticking to their own adaptation.
Yeah, and I think like the scene, like they tie Alicent up and then they make Helena choose between the two, and then she chooses the younger son who maybe doesn't exist, although his name was in the family tree of the credits last season, but now there's the credits.
There is. So there are 3 children by them. There is a brother, and their kids are kind of they're pretty Targaryened up. So like I do like there's definitely a little more incest apparent here, where I know they have 2 kids or twins, a boy and a girl. Then I believe there's a younger brother. Yeah. I'm not positive. I think it's the younger brother who has 6 toes.
Yeah.
At least on one foot. It's like, and then he doesn't cry at all or something like that. And then the other 2 are weird as well in different ways.
Mm-hmm. Which is crazy. Their mom is so normal. It'd be crazy that. No, well, first, and also like shout out to the actress who plays Helena like wonderfully. But yeah, I just don't think they could have shown the version in the book on TV. Like it was horrible enough what they showed. So yeah, I know people were just like upset because they're very book purists, and like you said, this is a very like it's a mostly accurate adaptation, but they do have their own storyline they very much want to tell on top of the adaptation. And I know people who are like fans of like fans of the Green. I don't even know if you can be fans of one side or another here, but people are mad that the show is a lot more through like Rhaenyra's POV, through like more sympathetic to her side in this than maybe the actual book. And the history we got to see in the original series, these talk about Rhaenyra as a usurper, and like Joffrey talks about how she tried to steal her brother's throne, and was Shireen taught, they have that like, what would you do, whose side would you pick there? So it's in the history of Westeros. Rhaenyra is looked at as a usurper, and the show is more sympathetic to her, I feel, than like the in-world history is.
Yeah, I would say if you refer to the show and like the way characters talk about them, but I think if you read the book, I think it kind of goes both ways. Personally, I think there's a little more sympathy towards Rhaenyra. I think, would you say in right, in the actual like source text, just because, especially if you look like even Aegon in the book, he when they initially asked him to be king, he's like, do I really want to take the crown that's supposed to be my sister's?
Yeah.
But then they say, well, you know, her sons won't, her basically by you becoming king, her sons are going to be illegitimate. So she's going to fight for the crown regardless. So you just have to take it. And that's obviously Otto and like probably Allison's doing in his court. But it's also important, when we talk about like telling narrative, like in the source text, there's usually at least 3 different sources which vary at different points. So there isn't a sure narrative here anyways, right? They're filling in the blank sometimes. Yeah, they're switching some things around. Again, I think we have enough violence. And to be fair, I'm not sure. How do I say this? Like at the season finale of season 1, when I referred to like the mushroom tail thing, I'm not saying most of it is just like the raunchiest versions of the story, but the end of season 1 was absolutely like the raunchiest. Aegon like basically watching children fighting, fucking someone who's probably underage, just doing all the most depraved things. That is only told by one source, which is the most extreme. They say the most likely is actually him just having a normal affair. So I think because of that, and I'm not saying that was the right choice, I think it makes sense that, yeah, it's like we're going to tone down some things. We're going to add in some things too. Like you said, I personally, the vibe I've gotten from watching this is I find Alicent harder to like than Rhaenyra personally. So I don't know if we needed more reason to kind of think ill of Alicent, but it did seem like they were doing a lot to try to make her more of a sympathetic character with how, she was kind of feeling towards Rhaenyra, which if we know in the source text, that is not the case at all. I don't really think she doesn't give 2 shits about Rhaenyra.
Yeah, no, they did a lot of work to make her more sympathetic. She's not, in the source material, she's not close to Rhaenyra's age. It's not, they don't grow up together. So yeah, anyways, I think they are doing a good job, but it is an adaptation, so things are going to change. And I feel like going into this being like everything better be exactly the same, or it's bad, then like I don't think you're going to enjoy it, because there's always going to be stuff that's going to be different. Even in this episode, there's stuff that's different from the books. So like, yeah, just enjoy the ride is what I'm trying to say. And speaking of enjoying the ride, I really enjoyed the scene of Rhaenyra's small council when she's like, why would they think I would like do this? This is so horrible. And then everybody just looks at Daemon.
Yeah.
And she slowly realizes it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was right. And we can see now the choice to have Daemon, kind of make that command. There's a couple reasons they did it. But I think the big one is kind of to bring up that conversation between her and Daemon, and to create tension between the two of them, because in the source text, actually, I believe at that point when they kill, is it Jaehaerys they kill?
Jaehaerys, yeah.
Yeah, when they kill Jaehaerys, Daemon's already taken Harrenhal at that point. That's already done. So they're actually already way ahead, and then they make that move. So I think they did it the way they did it in the show, to, before Daemon goes away, they want to build that tension between them. And I will say they did a really good job of it, because I really, I feel like in the show, that version of the character, you kind of start to feel like, oh, Daemon's like, yeah, Daemon's still Daemon, but he seems really devoted to Rhaenyra and her cause, and I'm kind of surprised. I was kind of surprised when Rhaenyra started to come at him, and then even, and then I'm like, all right, I'm an idiot for falling for that, because then Daemon is like, well, you shouldn't have been the heir anyways. I should have.
Yeah.
You know, and then you're like, there he is. There's my boy. Always ready for it. You know, and that, you know, so I think like to kind of have that divide between them, you know, is probably important to create more conflict, because I guess if they did it the other way around, where it's like he takes Harrenhal first, then this happens, right? I think they also want to have Lady Misery. I'm assuming they're going to do something here where they're going to have her kind of, she probably proved herself with Sir Eric and Sir Eric, signaling that, and I think she's going to come in. She's going to come back into play through Rhaenyra, which is an interesting choice. I'd have to go back to source text. I don't believe that is a thing. I think her and Daemon are still actually on terms in the source text. They don't really go super into detail with it, but he definitely, I think, still has her as a source. So yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I just want to, like, you know, the two actors in the scene, amazing stuff. Like, really, you know, they were playing off each other in a really wonderful way. And then I think, like you said, now Damon's going to Harrenhal, and it's much more of a, like, I need to prove myself to Rhaenyra mission. You know, so almost similar to season 1 in the Stepstones, where he's like, I need to prove myself, you know, to Viserys by taking the Stepstones. You know, it's very classic Daemon. He's like, well, now I need to, like, kill a bunch of people, I guess.
But as we know, it's Daemon. It's like, I'm going to prove myself, but usually he ends up doing something that's based on his own intentions, not the person, and ends up being way too overzealous, and you know, ends up actually he's probably going to do something that pisses Rhaenyra off, you know, because that's just how he goes. So as a result, he's probably going to do something more rash, you know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they play it, because, like you said, a little bit different from the books here.
For sure.
So you know, a really big part of this episode, I think, was Otto realizing that, you know, Frankenstein's monster is completely out of control. Like, he thought he wanted this, but you know, Aegon, too much of a loose cannon here. And, you know, it makes sense, right? He's grieving. His son just died. And we have this really great scene before that with the funeral, and Otto's like, you know, really playing the Game of Thrones here, getting the people on, you know, their side, like getting tons of brownie points. And then his fucking idiot grandson decides to just hang all the rat catchers without trying to figure out which one of them is the one who actually helped in the assassination of his kid. What do you think of Aegon and Otto's relationship in this episode? Shades of Tywin, right? And Joffrey.
He's definitely got shades of Tywin. With Aegon, we do see some Joffrey. They do they fill in a lot here, where he's more of a, definitely a little bit of more of a complex character, right? We see a lot of up and down with Aegon. We see him in the first episode wanting to be liked by the peasants, right? And then we see him being quick to anger, which in the source text, that's kind of more of the focus. It's just Aegon is very quick to anger, but we do know that he takes the loss of his son very hard. And then Otto, on the other hand, I mean, I just see a lot of this as kind of like the result of Otto overstepping himself. You know, he's known for being very, like, proud and haughty. He kind of thinks he's better than others. He very clearly, nudged his daughter to marry Viserys so the Hightowers could, become Targaryens, and as a result, you know, he kind of creates this monster, like you said, like Frank says, monster. He creates a monster that's bigger than himself. Like, yeah, this is your grandson, but also he's a Targaryen. You're not, and right, while you know, Otto's so set on making this big name and basically ruling the kingdom by his hand. I don't know if it's intentional, but clearly Aegon didn't learn anything from him. All Aegon knows is, the worst of the Targaryen approach, which is, why the fuck are we talking about this? I have dragons, burn them. Like,
Yeah. No, and it was also very interesting to get kind of a, we kind of had glimpses of the relationship him and Viserys had. Obviously, they're very close, and then like all these schemes happened. But I don't think Viserys is a good king. Of course, he's a pretty horrible king, in fact. But he at least like had measured responses to things, and Otto appreciates that in this moment where he sees his grandson is just not going to be that kind of a person at all. But also, Aegon could have really turned out differently if like anybody gave a shit about him. Or like even in the last season, he's like begging for his mom to just like say that she loves him, and she can't even do it in the moment.
In the show last season, I thought they did a pretty good job of where they made him more of a sympathetic character at first to a degree, but there's always that very volatile behavior he had that was right. So like,
child fighting pits aside and rape.
No, but I'm saying even before that, like I think like when he's at dinner, it's like he's the reasonable one in that dinner when like all the when his brother calls them like three strong boys, but then at the very end he basically goes up to one of their betrothed and is like, if you want some real dick, baby, come with me. Just and like grabs her like pretty inappropriately, and it's just like, all right, this guy's a prick.
Yeah.
And so like that stuff pretty much makes him irreconcilable, and it also signals they make him sympathetic in some way, like where you see like when you see him not wanting to get out of bed and being like, why do I have to do this? Like this is a young man clearly with a lot of mental health issues. He has these expectations that are just thrown on him. He doesn't really seem to show an aptitude for much, and so he's kind of like knows he's going to become king, but he's pretty aimless. And I would say Viserys. I would say Viserys is kind of like, we talk about there's different Targaryen like ruler archetypes. He's definitely like the soft and like the soft, plump, festive one who just wants to like sweep everything under the rug. Like kind of like, oh, everything's great. I don't like confrontation though. And I just want to party. I don't want to actually deal with anything. So I'm just going to let a guy who's smarter than me do it. And I'm not going to look at how he's cultivating power and me defaulting out of laziness and fear. As where this, Aegon, we don't see it in this yet, but we see it in the book, with his drinking and we see it at the beginning of the season. Like there is a part of him, at least in the show, that wants to please people, but we also see that very volatile temper. And obviously in the show, they show like some pretty extreme sexual perversions and sexual aggression. So it makes perfect sense that he makes this hasty decision. I also, Brian, I'm not sure where we were headed next, but I did want to comment on, they did a very good job of making Sir Criston Cole just seem like an absolute psychopath, especially, like he clearly feels guilty. Like, oh shit, I'm the one who got the baby killed. And then he just goes to the other Lord Commander and just like, it's just like, man, this guy is fucking nuts. Like you take that, you take the scene before when he kills like, is it Laenor's lover? Like, this guy is just unhinged and like just roaming free.
And not only that, he's constantly being promoted all the time.
In this one, they almost did like his facial expression, because usually in this, he seems a little smug and sure of himself. He's kind of like me, it's like almost like frozen. He's like, I'm fine. Like it's almost like they did it for so long. I think they almost wanted to do it where he's like, I'm fucking crazy. Like, like there's like instruments playing in his head and they're not all playing together right, and it's just like he's like I'm gonna rip someone's face off. You don't know that with this power.
Because it's funny because he's like, I have these morals and like these things that I try to live up to. I'm constantly failing. And in his mind, he's like, I should be punished for my failings.
But then
And he
he
just keeps
punished.
having good shit happen.
Yeah, but what he does is he's like, oh, actually, no, I'm gonna be righteous. I'm gonna punish others, and
Mhm.
he's got like in this, he's got such like a vendetta out for Rhaenyra, and in this version on the show, it makes absolutely no sense other than like, dude, you like
She took his
you
me
lost your
time, maybe.
you
Yeah.
you got your heart broken, dude. Like a teenager, it's all right. It happens. Like
Yeah.
every
He's a great representation of the guy who gets his heart broken as a teenager and never gets over it for the
yeah,
rest of his
good
life.
point. Yeah, every what's that old song? Everybody plays a fool sometimes. If only I'd heard that song, it might have.
Yeah. Oh man. Jesus. But yeah, no, he keeps getting promoted. He keeps getting power. Definitely not deserved, but should be fun to watch him be head of the king. That being said, and Otto certainly demeans his prank, as he calls it, to send Eric to impersonate Eric. Um, that being said, it almost worked. It
Yeah,
just was dumb luck that it didn't work.
it's definitely one of those. Even in the book, it's like one of those ideas. It is like, holy shit, that's so crazy and simple. That's almost like genius. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's so unhinged. It's just so out there. It's like it has to work. Yeah, he's a twin. Why not? Just walks in and it does almost work. And we do. Yeah, we see that like right that we do see some of that stuff kind of working into Aegon, who's obviously crazy with grief right now. He just wants to see results.
Yeah. Or even attempts.
Yeah.
Well, someone to fucking do something. So the fact that Christian Cole was like, I got this outside the box idea, he was like, fuck yes, bro. That's the best idea I've ever
Yeah.
heard.
And 100% Aegon is a tantruming child right now.
Mhm.
That's really all he is with the power of a king. So he can do whatever he wants. And, Cole is strong.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that scene, the fight between the twins, pretty great, pretty tragic.
Mhm.
Really, just setting the stage for how much of a feel bad, war this is going to be.
Yeah, it really shows like the bloodshed, like and I think this version of Rhaenyra, like she's very sympathetic to everything. Obviously, she's no saint herself, but we do see like, and she's willing to let people die for her for sure. But yeah, we do see that she's saddened by this and pretty horrified by it. I do kind of wish they did like a combo of the versions from the source text where it's like I think it would have made sense for both brothers to say they loved each other. I think they only had one of them say it.
Yeah.
Just a nice way for them to go out. I feel like I feel like that was the vibe I got on the show. It's just like, oh man, these two twins like really seem to, they really like, they love each other. They're inseparable twins, and they're really torn by these, the decisions they have to make. And, this is what, they're just a symbol of what this is doing to people. Right.
Mm-hmm. And I think the best part is they both very much believe they're doing the right thing. Eric believes he's a King's Guard. Aegon's the king. Like that's just how it is, and Eric's like, but he's a King's Guard and I'm carrying out the will of the king before who named Rhaenyra the heir. Like they both, neither of them are picking Aegon or Rhaenyra out of love. Obviously, Eric was like, yo, Aegon, real fucked. He makes his own bastard children fight in pits. So not the best potential king, but he's more trying to live up to his vows, and they're both in very different ways. So yeah, I mean it's definitely on the nose, like, oh man, this war is between, literal twins. But I think it's still effective nonetheless.
Yeah, no, I think they. I thought they did a good job of it. It made sense. And I was kind of wondering because I was like, oh man, this is a cool like little side arc thing, and like, but I was like, are they going to make this like, the big like
The climax of the
the
season.
climax, or the climax of the episode? But honestly, they did it pretty well. It wasn't too. It was long. It was a little. It wasn't too long.
Yeah,
I was
I thought
expecting it was going to be more
right,
drawn out. It was pretty perfect. They cut right to it. They said what they needed to say with it. Yeah, and
and a
I
lot
think
of good tension too, as he's creeping through that castle and nobody's picking up on him. Like, obviously, we read the book, we know what happens, but I would imagine if you've never read the book, you're watching this scene like, oh my god, is this gonna work?
you probably figure. I think especially when you see Lady Misery, she's a clever lady. I think you see her spot him, which is kind of. I guess that was like I was like thinking through, and I was like, would she be able to spot? I was like, I guess she just saw the guy, and he's just wearing, and he's wearing. Yeah, so she's like, no, he wouldn't have come up. I guess she'd catch it, or could.
Yeah, because she's like, oh, he's back there. How would he have gotten all the way down there and be coming back up now, right?
Yeah, and even when she says she's like, I'm done being ambitious, we know that's not really true, right? People like that, people like that don't just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go sell I'm gonna go sell oysters now. Like, no, you're not gonna do that. You're gonna find some clever little way to like run shit.
Yeah, it would be like Littlefinger being like, you know what, I'm good. Like,
I'd watch a whole show about that. Just like Littlefinger, he just like he's checked out. He's like, you know what, it just discovers himself by like becoming like he owns like he produces puppeteer shows. Like buys a couple different stages and is like trying to bring the best out of these puppeteers and bring forth messages that are like empowering for young kids.
Yeah, it would have been honestly a better fate than Bran just calling him out with his super psychic powers. A little bit undercut the whole thing that Varys and Littlefinger had going on when you have someone who can see through time and space.
Oh yeah,
not fair at all. There, but anyways, back to this episode. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about that we haven't touched on yet?
So one would be the introduction of two characters. In the first episode, they might have signaled Sir Adam of Hull. I don't think he's Sir yet. So we'll just say Adam of Hull. So I think they had his brother in the last episode. I guess I don't think they had him, but then they introduced him in this episode. I wasn't expecting him to be so early, and then they have Hugh. And I didn't catch that he was the blacksmith from the first episode.
I didn't either until this episode.
But so in this episode, am I correct? They have him. He lives near King's Landing.
Yeah, he lives in King's Landing. Yeah,
but I don't believe that is I believe he is in Dragonstone in the source text, right?
Right.
It's kind of interesting that they're having the two, but I guess it makes sense because it's like you want them from both sides. I guess that does.
Yeah.
It does make some sense, but like the introduction of those two characters, for anyone listening who, read the text, I thought that was interesting. I wasn't expecting them to introduce them so early. But I think overall, I think those scenes were pretty good. Again, the show's bringing it. Yes, the show is doing kind of what they want with the source material, but I think they're making it their own in a good way. I haven't come across anything yet that I've been too like, why would they do that? I think the one that probably has made me do that the most was the decision to have Alicent and Sir Criston Cole fucking at the end of the first episode, and to have Helena walk in on it. Like I said, especially because in the text we have Alicent is the one who brings the killers to
either that or was it all in Alicent's room and then the killers knew that Helena always brought the grandkids to see their grandmother.
But it
Is
is,
that-
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But they do go to Allison first, and I think they might even tell her to call upon them, as she knows they always come.
Yeah, right. And like, yeah, maybe they're implying like Allison lied to the Maesters, like, oh, they totally tied me up too, and
yeah, that is probably how they staged it, right? And
Mhm.
that kind of would explain. And it was interesting, like in this episode they touched upon, and I hadn't even thought of it, how Kristen Cole is actually still the Queen's Guard to Allison, and we know why he is, right? And like, why the hell didn't why doesn't the actual Queen, who has the heirs to the throne, she doesn't have a guard? Like, that's insane. I'd have to go. I don't think they ever specify that in the source text, that Helena doesn't have a guard, because that is like pretty nutty, and obviously a huge oversight on Kristen Cole's part. Obviously, there's no one to, just kind of, we see him and Aegon in these positions of power, and it's like, especially now, right? We see that right after he becomes Hand of the King, so there's really no one to keep him in check.
You know what? Honestly, it goes all the way back to season 1, when Otto was like, so these are these really qualified knights to be part of the King's Guard. Also, we have Christian Cole. He's pretty good at tourneys, and I think he was in one war. But remember, all these other people are very qualified. Rhaenyra's like, yeah, Christian Cole, right?
Yeah, and here's a peasant pretty boy right out of a storybook.
Yep.
And that's kind of what we see is like, again, they're like these kind of how Otto says these harebrained schemes. Like, that is the thing, is like Kristen Cole, he wasn't raised. Well, I guess he was to a degree, right? I believe he's the son of a steward of a big house, and they find out he's talented for arms, but like, he's not trained to be a general or anything. He doesn't have any of these grand understandings of battle schemes or anything like that. He really is an just an upjumped commoner.
No, you're right.
Right. And we do know he is a very good fighter. That is certain. In the source text, right, it seemed he defeats some pretty tough opponents for sure. I think he fucks up Sir Damon.
Yeah, he does. And
in the melee,
also,
I believe. And then he proceeds to take a few other guys. And he definitely damages Breakbones at some point, I feel like.
Yeah, because he was Breakbones, and then after that, I think there was a jousting. They renamed him to like Broken Bones or something, because Sir Christian Cole fucked him up. In the show, we get a more satisfying version of him just beating the shit out of Christian Cole.
Yeah, for sure.
Just because he's so big, and it's like they're right next to each other. It's like it's got to be hard to not get your ass kicked in that moment.
But I think 100% Sir Christian Cole is a much better fighter than
if they had like lined up, and actually like gone to fight, it may have been different. But
like at his peak, it seems like Sir Christian Cole might be the best fighter in this show, in this world. If Vaymond is pretty good, but I don't know that he's quite as good as Sir Christian Cole.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see more from him in the actual war as that goes closer, because he does a lot in the books. A lot of campaigning.
But he doesn't have, even in the books too, right? He doesn't have that. There are right, and this is a time of peace, so he's never had to really be in any battle, so he doesn't have that. And like I said, he doesn't have the formal training a lot of other knights would have. And the time makes it worse. And like I said, while he's a very good fighter, they also make it clear that a big reason he is elected to the King's Guard is because he's also very pretty. And Rhaenyra is a big fan of him and would like to see him. White Cloak.
You've seen 30 Rock, right, Ryan?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. He's like John Hamm's character in that. He's just so dumb but so handsome.
He just keeps falling into stuff.
Yeah.
This character is like pretty, actually, like this version of Sir Kristen, like A lot of it's not spelled out in the source text, but I think this version of Sir Kristen is like she's like a psychopath. Like I think so.
Yeah, no,
I think
definitely.
he just has like I don't know, he just has these like breaks, like, and you just
Mhm,
and he's so justified in like these really reckless decisions
mhm.
that are like driving forces, and then he goes back to like, oh yeah, I'm a very morally sound guy, and then
Yeah,
now I'm just gonna fuck Allison again, like, and then he's gonna like go up to some guy, like throw his food on him and call him a cheater, like, and a thief,
yeah.
and then
And you can tell this is already an established pattern of behavior because all the other Kingsguard immediately get up and leave the room as soon as he starts
oh
like
yeah,
going in on Eric. They were
yeah,
like, okay, we've seen this. We're fucking out of here.
and it was very much like I thought they did a really good job where you could tell like at first he kind of speaks for a sec, and then he's like, oh yeah, this
Oh,
dude
he's
is
in one of his moods.
yeah.
Yeah,
So yes, sir. Thank you,
great.
sir.
Mhm.
Yeah, like kind of reminds you if you ever watch like any like sort of like military movie, right?
Mhm.
When they know they clearly just have like a completely like unpredictable officer, you know.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. And it's whatever. Sir Christian's been fucking up. And he gets on Eric for having a dirty cloak because he was
Yeah.
fucking part of this fucking
Yeah.
funeral procession.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
so insane. It was like, dude, I haven't eaten in like a whole day. I've been so
I know,
busy.
yeah.
uh,
Literally cleaning up the mess you caused. But
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I was actually kind of surprised I had him be like, well, where were you? Like, but good
Yeah.
for him, you know.
Mhm. Yeah. And then, of course, Christian immediately is like, all right, you're going to go on a fucking suicide mission now.
Well, yeah, it's like you don't get
Because
to be a
even
kid.
if he kills Rhaenyra, like, he's not getting out of that castle.
No, and even if he does, I wonder if because they had sent her terms of fealty, even if she has like formally turned down, I think because of right, Allison, there's still some hope to end it amicably ish.
Mhm.
Um, I think he might have to be punished anyways. I could be wrong
Right.
on that, but I think even if he does kill her and that's the end to it, I think they probably would still kill him.
Oh, he's dead. He's 100. The second that he
Mhm.
went on that mission, he knew it too. That he was dead.
Yeah, I think he would honestly. He was like, I think he was probably hoping to run into his brother. Could be wrong about that.
Right.
I think probably, you know, and I think they do a good job of setting that up in the last season where it's kind of like I don't know, neither of these brothers seem very settled. Like they feel they have made the right decision, but they don't like this divide. And I think this is like the best way for it to be rectified, right? For them killing each other.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. So tragic, but such a great episode.
yeah,
Can't wait for the next one.
I mean, neither, yeah.
I mean, you know, it's so nice to have House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones back. And we're only going to get more because WB and Max don't really have, they don't want to make anything else. They still have some shows, but they've canceled a lot of shows. Although I will say they played a trailer for The Penguin that, which I was like, I'm not into this idea. The trailer very good actually, and I was like, all right, maybe it'll be good.
The fact that Colin Farrell is willing to just do this, I mean, it is kind of like that kind of an actor. That's kind of it. It's so like,
But you know what, Colin, you should just go fat for real. You're cheating a little.
yeah.
You gotta.
Oh, that is kind of that makes there's kind of like a gimmick to it that way. That's kind of funny, but
He's stealing roles from the James Gandolfinis of the
yeah,
world. You think James Gandolfini wanted to be that fat in the later season of The Sopranos? No, but he knew it was better for the character to be
yeah,
that fat.
totally. It had to do with that. Yeah,
he put, he sacrificed his body for us, Ryan, for his art.
it had nothing. Well, I think might have had more to do with. I'd imagine that showed a sweet spread buffet for the cast. Probably like baked CD sausages, like all in theme.
Yeah. So many cannolis, just like housing them in between takes. Like, Anyways, I've been rewatching Sopranos lately.
Oh, great show.
Incredible
I've been meaning
show.
to rewatch. Yeah, I've been meaning to rewatch that as well. Started to a little bit a while ago. Yeah, it's an amazing show. But I was saying, I guess the only other thing I think we could talk about is that we want to talk at all about the scene with Vaymond.
Yeah.
That could be. I thought that was. I don't remember that being in the source text. It was an interesting choice. It does kind of paint him in a more. Yeah, you know, he's, what is the word for it? Vulnerable, right? Right. It shows him being vulnerable. You know, shows he does have someone he confides in. I thought it was kind of interesting. Maybe it was to show some differences between him and Daemon, because Daemon, we would not see this type of interaction, I think. And that underlying vulnerability. To me, I think the two characters, the big difference to me is, I think like Vaymond, I think Vaymond clearly, I think they said,
we're talking about Aemond, right?
Isn't his name? Brother. Yeah, I thought his name was Vaymond.
No, Aemond. Aemond.
You might be right. No, I mean you're probably definitely right, but
yeah,
no. Oh no, I'm thinking there's Vaymond Valyrian. I don't know where I mix that up. But anyways,
because all of these names are like the same name spelled like different ways.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, Aemond. Yeah, sorry, Aemond.
That's fine.
The very clear difference to me between them is that, you know, Aemon. I think he says it last season that, like, you know, he thinks he would be, but he knows he'd be a better king than his brother. But I don't necessarily think he wants to overtake him, or he has. I don't. You know what I mean? I just think he's just going to do the best at his position, and he is cutthroat, but I think there is a little bit of like that, you know, even in the source text, I believe, like, he knows he made a mistake, right? He did act on his temper. His temper isn't quite as volatile as his brother, to the degree of he does seem to have some reflection. And that is part of what would make him a better king, as where we know that Daemon 100% thinks he would be a better king than Viserys. He pretty much, you know, both do a lot, you know, both aren't willing to like openly defy their brothers. But to me, that was always the pretty clear difference between the two. I also, you know, I think Aemon does have like a fierce and a cruel streak for sure, that can be unleashed, but I would say overall, like, we never see in the books like a lot of Daemon stuff with prostitutes, manipulating others, all of that kind of stuff. With the different ways he can get around his honor, you know, like his marriages and stuff. Like, we don't see any of that really with Aemond. So that was always a pretty clear difference to me. But maybe that was the purpose, because I thought that was just an interesting choice. I don't remember that ever being like in anything, but
right.
I guess it also does fill in the plot hole for where was he? He's out fucking a prostitute, you know?
Yeah. And the show's like, hey, do you want to know if Aemon has mother issues? Here's him cradled up to an older prostitute,
being coddled,
like a child.
I know, that was such like in the way they like shot it too. He's like curled. Yeah. It's like such a long body, but it's like curled up under her with the hair. It was like pretty absurd. Yeah. Yeah, and you see, like, kind of, he shows, like, he's like, the boys made fun of me, like, kind of like, still this very damaged kid, you know, and he's like, hey, well, remember, this giant damaged kid is very powerful and is gonna breathe fire and he's gonna kill
literally people. Literally the rider of the like biggest, most like badass dragon in the whole world right now. Not great, but you know. I really liked that. I liked the way it was framed, the way, you know, they had the actors pose for it, where he is looking like a child. And then, you know, you can't blame him. We have this scene with Aegon crying right after Alicent, you know, has a bad conversation with her dad when she's like trying to be like, I've sinned, and he's like, get out of my face. I don't want to hear about this.
Oh, at the end, I
Yeah.
did think that was yeah. That's the thing. Is like Otto. That's the kind of thing with Allison. It does make her more sympathetic. Where basically Otto, like I said, he threw his daughter upon Viserys, right? And he creates this beast, and like to the point where Allison doesn't get to, I don't think it's explored as much in text, but like right, we see it pretty clearly in the show. She doesn't get to live out any of the normal any of the normal fantasies a normal teenage girl would have. And like, she doesn't get to have like romances and stuff like that. And as a result, but she also has like this guilt and wants to be this good person. And, Otto thrusts her into that, but then he isn't willing to hear, the consequences of that and be that actual father that's like, I love you unconditionally. But I think I think, because of that, Allison can't resolve it. And that's why she then goes to Sir Kristen Cole. Clearly, she doesn't have father issues, but to play off Aemon. But what was I going to say? I do think it's her dad's way of saying like, look, this is already all so fucked up. I don't need. I took that his delivery was like, I don't want to know, in the sense of like, you're forgiven, like we're good. Yeah. I love you. You're my daughter. We're going to continue to do this, but also it's him, so it's like, as long as it all ends in me being the hand of the king and I get the last word, I love you.
right.
If not, go fuck yourself.
I just think like she could have really used him
for
being
sure
there for her, and then
absolutely
also not able to rise above it and be there for her son.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because that's why because of that, that's why she engages in that behavior. It isn't there for her son. And we've seen this time after time again, where they just have this inability to kind of express their love to each other appropriately. Yeah. That's a big part of the last season with her and Aegon.
I can just imagine her being like, you love me unconditionally, right? And he's like, I've never once implied that it's unconditional. There are a lot of conditions to my love, actually.
That's true. But I will say, I think they did a good job of like, we know that this death and this kind of stuff, just like, right, and the enmity like Rhaenyra and Allison harbor for each other, it creates all these really fucked up things that like the children just aren't prepared to handle mentally at all. And they do a pretty good job with Jacaerys, who honestly is like, pretty like out of all of them is just like killing it,
right.
And then I was gonna say like, like Viserys, it really shows with like Aegon, and I always mean to almost say Viserys with Aegon because he does look like Viserys in Game of Thrones, but Aegon, I think they really, he does, right? But Aegon and Helena, some similar vibe. Anyways, Aegon and Helena, they do a really good job of kind of just sowing some seeds for showing like how this death is affecting them, and how no one's really able to be there for them. Mom is just like,
they're not even there for each other. It's crazy.
That's the most telling part, right? And I mean, we know that it's not a very loving marriage.
No.
I do think the actor who plays Hannah great. A little different than the version in the books. Of course they went for like
they definitely chose like a specific. So.
They were like, let's go for the quirky Luna. If she's got to be kind of like different than the Targaryens, let's make her the quirky Luna Lovegood. And actually I think in the books it just describes her as like a plump but pleasant lady who doesn't really have like the fine features of a Targaryen, like the looks, but would make a great mother. So definitely a little different, like less of like the detached, like starry-eyed, like
seer,
like like kind of flower child vibe, which is what it is. But I thought they did a good job with her as well, like showing for this version of the character, like showing her, with just the complete disconnect she feels with the people, the horror she's feeling, and also like the inability for Allison to be there. Like Allison's basically like, hey, you need to do this because I need to do this too. I don't want to either. So and then like we see Helena basically have like a complete like mental episode. Doesn't go to any
so.
and doesn't go to anyone about it, or isn't able to. No one comforts her, and then she goes by her husband, who's just goes right past her, and she actually stops. Right, I thought that was kind of telling that she actually does stop. She is looking for something.
Yeah,
she is like, hey, let's, and he just can't even look at her because it seems like for Aegon, the one bright spot in this forced marriage for him was especially his eldest son.
Yeah.
No. So I think that is signifying that just like we can kind of see where things are, things are not going good for either of those two.
No. And hey, probably not going to get a lot better either.
Yeah. So. Can't blame him. That's horrible.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Horrific. Like when, they had the scene of him about to like kill Blood. It was just like, yeah, gotta do it.
Honestly, it was like one of his least unhinged. Like, for some of the other stuff they've had him do, it's like, yeah, no, if you had access to that, and it's like, in those, like, it's actually, I think it would be celebrated if anything. Then the decision to hang all the,
was when he went a little too far, but
I'd have to look back to the source text to see if it was him specifically.
No, I think they just fire all of the rat catchers.
No, they do kill all of them.
Oh, they kill them all.
Yep, they do kill them all and hang the bodies, but I don't know if it is Aegon specifically who does it actually.
Right.
It probably was, but I don't know that it says that in the books. I think it might just be like a blanket decision from Aegon and his council. But yeah, definitely was not a very great decision to just be like, hey, I'm going to kill a bunch of your.
Right. No, that was no good. But really good episode though. That's all I have really. Did we cover everything you wanted?
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah.
Awesome. So we will be back next week covering episode 3. I think there are only 8 episodes this season, which is lame as shit.
How many were there last season?
There are 10.
10.
And I don't know. HBO is so weird.
Yeah, but this episode was like an hour, and this was
that's true. That's true. They are longer episodes.
So maybe they're like each an hour and 20 minutes as opposed to an hour. I mean, you get like, I think you end up probably getting a little more, honestly.
Yeah.
If that, we don't know if they're going to continue that, but.
Right. But yeah, I just want more, but we will be getting more. We got our first look at the, I think they're calling it a Night of Westeros, which is, based on the tales of Dunk and Egg, which.
That'll be a lot of fun. We definitely love to do something on that as well.
We definitely will.
And I've read those, I think, twice through now, but I also have the graphic novels, so then, be a good excuse to give those a whack,
Definitely. And I think they're such great stories. I think they'll be really fun to have as like, I think they're kind of doing like mini seasons, like each one's like 6 episodes, which I think it'll be great.
Yeah, it's just how much, I think there's only 3 of them
for now. Yeah.
We'll
see what George R. R. Martin writes. I'm not going to count on him to write.
Well, it's like, do we want him doing Dunk and Egg? Because it's like, I would love some Dunk and Egg, but also it's like, hey, shouldn't you be working on? Well, yeah, he shouldn't be doing anything. Do whatever he wants, right?
Yeah, he can do whatever he wants. If he knows what the storylines for the rest of the Dunk and Egg novellas are going to be, and he can just relay those to.
Oh, that's true. That's probably what he's going to do. And I'm assuming after how Game of Thrones seemed to end, it does seem like George R. R. Martin does have more of a hand, right? Am I right on that? On this show and the other show, and how they're directed, I think, to a degree.
Yeah,
I think definitely.
So. Yeah, he's definitely pretty involved. I'm trying to put it out there. I want to play that fat drunk priest in the second. I think I have the gumption, the talent, the body, everything for it. So HBO, hit me up. I'll send in my audition tape for the drunk priest in this season.
I would never have the range or variety of things to play this role, but just to say the range without the other stuff being more insulting towards myself for sure. But I would love if a dream role for that show would be Egg's drunken brother, drunken brother who just is passed out at the tavern and they run into randomly and just like has like random dreams he tells them. And it's like, I think he's like, also, it's like Egg's like, yeah, this is the only brother I really like besides like my one brother. And he's like, what the fuck? He's like, you haven't met the other ones. They're real fuckers. Like, he's like, my brothers really suck. This is the cool one. Like,
the only nice one went to the Citadel to study, and then all the rest of them are just horrible.
This one's okay though. He just
right.
He just drinks himself.
Oh yeah, he's haunted by the dreams that he sees.
I remember I liked that character a lot. That I was like, that's a great role. They got to have him in it, right? I feel like.
Oh yeah, he's a huge part of that first development.
Episode. Yeah.
He's like, I dreamed you to start talking. He's like, okay.
I'm just a pretty dumb giant hedge knight. Like. I do. Sir Duncan is awesome though. Yeah, great characters, and it connects in.
We will get Bloodraven here in this series probably.
Hey, and also if you guys who don't read the books need reason to watch Tales of Sir Duncan Egg, do you remember the Maester Aemon Targaryen?
Yeah,
Master Aemon Targaryen. So if you remember, he brings up a brother Egg who ends up being Aegon. It's the Tales of Dunk in Egg, right? So you can probably guess who Egg is, and if that's who do you think is the brother Brian was referring to at the Citadel? I don't know. Yeah. I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but just saying it might. If you guys for some reason had a really weird thing for Master Aemon,
I know who didn't. We're all Aemon heads back.
I feel like everyone liked Aemon. Yeah.
He's such a nice character.
Yeah, the conversation he has with Sam and stuff. Yeah, pretty nice. I'd say.
And John.
Oh, and John, true.
He gives some pretty great advice, and it's especially tragic in that show because he's like, I'm the last Targaryen, and then he finds out about Daenerys, and like she's all alone in the world. Like I'm the only other Targaryen. It's like, oh, you're talking to another Targaryen right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a big thing. He's literally talking to.
So good. Fuck. I love this series so much, and we'll be back to cover it more. Other than that, Ryan, anything you want to plug or promote?
No, I got nothing, Brian. Just excited for the next episode. Hopefully, if you guys like hearing us go on and on about books we've read, definitely keep listening. So gonna have a lot of fun doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. And one day we'll actually do an episode on the Celtics winning the finals on our sports channel.
Yep. I do have I can't see there being a crossover here, but I do have maybe I do have a Bill Walton Celtic shirt on.
Hell yeah.
So we'll definitely have to talk about the Celtics for sure.
That's on our Wicked Good Sports channel. Main channel is Wicked Good Everything. I have a semi-new video out there that I'm working on another one to get up, and I'm working on also a long-term project trying to learn Hearthstone, the card game. The idea of it is just like I'm old now. I'm pretty washed when it comes to competitive shooter games at this point, so I need a competitive game that doesn't require fast twitch, muscles really. So that's, I'm going to be streaming that on the main channel if you're interested. It's a fantasy thing. It's somewhat tangentially related.
I would say so.
Yeah. So check that out. And other than that, thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you all in the next one.